All rise. Department 24 of the Superior Court of California in and for the County of Sacramento is in session. The Honorable Michael Bowman, Judge, presiding. Please be seated and come to order.
All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Department 24. I'm Judge Michael Bowman, and due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and the need for social distancing, this matter is being heard remotely to accommodate the public's right, as well as the victims and victims' family members' right to be at these proceedings. All who've entered the building have had their temperature taken. In addition, the court has granted access to the press, and this matter is being live streamed to the public as well. Masks will be worn at all times unless the attorneys are speaking, and they may remove their masks at that time. I will be wearing a mask unless I'm speaking in the record as well. Thank you. This is to assist the court reporter to ensure that we have an accurate and complete record of these proceedings. I would remind you that we're still in a courtroom, so there's no talking in the audience, no use of cameras unless previously been approved by the court, and please no cell phones. This is the matter of the people of the state of California versus Joseph James DeAngelo. That's case 18FE008017. The matter is on calendar here today for imposition and judgment and sentence. Mr. DeAngelo is present. Can I have defense counsel please state their names for the record?
No present.
Thank you, counsel. Can I have the people of the state of California also announce their presence?
Good morning, Your Honor. Anne-Marie Schubert, District Attorney, Sacramento County, for the people.
Good morning, Your Honor. Greg Totten, District Attorney of Ventura County, for the people.
Good morning, Your Honor. Todd Spitzer, Orange County District Attorney for the people.
Good morning, Your Honor. Dinah Becton, Contra Costa County District Attorney for the people.
Good morning, Your Honor. Joyce Dudley for the people of Santa Barbara County.
Good morning, Your Honor. Tim Ward, Tulare County District Attorney for the people.
Good morning, Your Honor. Nancy O'Malley, Alameda County District Attorney for the people.
Good morning, Your Honor. Tori Verber Salazar on behalf of the people of San Joaquin County for the great state of California.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much. So at this time, I'm going to, let me ask Mr. Kress, do you waive formal arraignment for judgment and sentence? All right, I'm going to arraign Mr. DeAngelo on the charges post-plea. On June 29th, 2020, the defendant entered a plea of guilty to the following crimes. Count 1, charge of murder of Claude Snelling, which occurred on September 11th, 1975 in the county of Tulare, a violation of Penal Code Section 187(a), murder in the first degree. In addition, the defendant admitted that he personally used a firearm in the course of that murder, a violation of Penal Code Section 12022.5. Count 2, the charge of murder in the first degree of Katie Majori, which occurred on February 2nd, 1978 in the county of Sacramento. In addition, the defendant admitted that he personally used a firearm in the course of that murder, violation of Penal Code Section 12022.5. Count 3, the charge of murder in the first degree of Brian Majori, which occurred on February 2nd, 1978 in the county of Sacramento. In addition, the defendant admitted he personally used a firearm in the course of that murder, a violation of Penal Code Section 12022.5. Count 4, the charge of murder in the first degree of Deborah Manning, which occurred December 30th, 1979 in the county of Santa Barbara. In addition, the defendant admitted he personally used a firearm in the course of that murder, in violation of Penal Code Section 12022.5. In addition, the defendant admitted the special circumstance of that murder of Deborah Manning, and that the murder was committed in the commission of a rape within the meaning of Penal Code Section 261 and pursuant to Penal Code Section 190.2, paren C, paren 3, paren 3. In addition, the defendant admitted the special circumstance that the murder of Deborah Manning was committed in the commission of a burglary within the meaning of Penal Code Section 459 and a violation of Penal Code Section 190.2, paren C, paren 3, paren 5. Count 5, the charge of murder in the first degree of Robert Offerman, which occurred on December 30th, 1979 in the county of Santa Barbara. In addition, the defendant admitted that he personally used a firearm in the course of that murder, a violation of Penal Code Section 1222.5. In addition, the defendant admitted the special circumstance that the murder of Robert Offerman was committed in the commission of a burglary within the meaning of Penal Code Section 459 and a violation of Penal Code Section 190.2, paren C, paren 3, paren 5. Count 6, the charge of murder in the first degree of Sherry Domingo, which occurred on July 27th, 1981 in the county of Santa Barbara. In addition, the defendant admitted the special circumstance in the murder of Sherry Domingo and that the murder was committed in the commission of a rape within the meaning of Penal Code Section 261 and pursuant to Penal Code Section 190.2, paren C, paren 17, paren 3. In addition, the defendant admitted the special circumstance that the murder of Sherry Domingo was committed in the commission of a burglary within the meaning of Penal Code Section 459 and a violation of Penal Code Section 190.2, paren A, paren 17, paren 7. Count 7, the charge of murder in the first degree of Greg Sanchez, which occurred July 27th, 1981 in the county of Santa Barbara. In addition, the defendant admitted the special circumstance that the murder of Greg Sanchez was committed in the commission of a burglary within the meaning of Penal Code Section 459 and a violation of Penal Code Section 190.2, paren A, paren 17, paren 7. Count 8, the charge of murder in the first degree, Darlene Smith, which occurred between the dates of March 13th, 1980 and March 16th, 1980 in the county of Ventura. In addition, the defendant admitted the special circumstance to the murder of Charlene Smith and that the murder was committed in the commission of a rape within the meaning of Penal Code Section 261 and pursuant to Penal Code Section 190.2, paren A, paren 17, paren 3. In addition, the defendant admitted the special circumstance that the murder of Charlene Smith was committed in the commission of a burglary within the meaning of Penal Code Section 459 and a violation of Penal Code Section 190.2, paren A, paren 17, paren 7. Count 9, the charge of murder in the first degree of Lyman Smith, which occurred between the dates of March 13th, 1980 and March 16th, 1980 in the county of Ventura. In addition, the defendant admitted the special circumstance that the murder of Lyman Smith was committed in the commission of a burglary within the meaning of Penal Code Section 459 and a violation of Penal Code Section 190.2, paren A, paren 17, paren 7. Count 10, the charge of murder in the first degree of Patrice Harrington, which occurred on August 21st, 1980 in the county of Orange. In addition, the defendant admitted the special circumstance to the murder of Patrice Harrington that the murder was committed in the commission of a rape within the meaning of Penal Code Section 261 and pursuant to Penal Code Section 190.2, paren A, paren 17, paren 3. In addition, the defendant admitted the special circumstance that the murder of Patrice Harrington was committed in the commission of a burglary within the meaning of Penal Code Section 459 and Penal Code Section 190.2, paren A, paren 17, paren 7. Count 11, the charge of murder in the first degree of Keith Harrington, which occurred on August 21st, 1980 in the county of Orange. In addition, the defendant admitted the special circumstance of the murder of Keith Harrington that the murder was committed in the commission of a burglary within the meaning of Penal Code Section 459 and Penal Code Section 190.2, paren A, paren 17, paren 7. Count 12, the charge of murder in the first degree of Manuela Whitenu, which occurred on February 6, 1981 in the county of Orange. In addition, the defendant admitted the special circumstance to the murder of Manuela Whitenu and that the murder was committed in the commission of a rape within the meaning of Penal Code Section 261 and Penal Code Section 190.2, paren C, paren 17, paren 3. In addition, the defendant admitted the special circumstance that the murder of Manuela Whitenu was committed in the commission of a burglary within the meaning of Penal Code Section 459 and a violation of Penal Code Section 190.2, paren A, paren 17, paren 7. Count 13, the charge of murder in the first degree of Janelle Cruz, which occurred May 5th, 1986 in the County of Orange. In addition, the defendant admitted the special circumstance that the murder of Janelle Cruz and that the murder was committed in the commission of a rape within the meaning of Penal Code Section 261 and pursuant to Penal Code Section 190.2, paren C, paren 17, paren 3. In addition, the defendant admitted the special circumstance that the murder of Janelle Cruz was committed in the commission of a burglary within the meaning of Penal Code Section 459 and a violation of Penal Code Section 190.2, paren A, paren 17, paren 7. In addition, the defendant admitted that he did commit multiple murders within the meaning of Penal Code Section 190.2, paren A, paren 3, and Penal Code Section 190.2, paren C, paren 7, in counts 2 through 13. Count 14, the charge of kidnapping with intent to commit robbery of Jane Doe number 1, having occurred on September 4th, 1976 in the County of Sacramento, a violation of Penal Code Section 209. In addition, the defendant admitted that he personally used a knife in the course of that robbery, a violation of Penal Code Section 12022. Count 15, charge of kidnapping with intent to commit robbery of Jane Doe number 2, having occurred on April 2nd, 1977 in the County of Sacramento, a violation of Penal Code Section 209. In addition, the defendant admitted he personally used a firearm in the course of that robbery in violation of Penal Code Section 12022.5. Count 16, charge of kidnapping with intent to commit robbery of Jane Doe number 3, having occurred April 15th, 1977 in the County of Sacramento, a violation of Penal Code Section 209. In addition, the defendant admitted he personally used a firearm in the course of that robbery, a violation of Penal Code Section 12022.5. In addition, the defendant admitted he personally used a knife in the commission of that robbery, a violation of Penal Code Section 12022. Count 17, the charge of kidnapping with intent to commit robbery of Jane Doe number 4, having occurred May 3rd, 1977 in the County of Sacramento, a violation of Penal Code Section 209. In addition, the defendant admitted he personally used a firearm in the course of that robbery, a violation of Penal Code Section 12022.5. Count 18, the charge of kidnapping with intent to commit robbery of Jane Doe number 5, having occurred May 14th, 1977 in the County of Sacramento, a violation of Penal Code Section 209. In addition, the defendant admitted he personally used a firearm in the course of that robbery, a violation of Penal Code Section 12022.5. In addition, the defendant admitted he personally used a knife in the course of that robbery, a violation of Penal Code Section 1222. Count 19, charge of kidnapping with intent to commit robbery of Jane Doe number 6, having occurred May 17th, 1977 in the County of Sacramento, a violation of Penal Code Section 209. In addition, the defendant admitted he personally used a firearm in the course of that robbery, a violation of Penal Code Section 1222.5. In addition, the defendant admitted he personally used a knife in the course of that robbery, a violation of Penal Code Section 1222. Count 20, charge of kidnapping with intent to commit robbery of Jane Doe number 7, which occurred on May 28th, 1977 in the County of Sacramento, a violation of Penal Code Section 209. In addition, the defendant admitted he personally used a firearm in the course of that robbery, a violation of Penal Code Section 1222.5. In addition, the defendant admitted he personally used a knife in the course of that robbery, a violation of Penal Code Section 1222. Count 21, the charge of kidnapping with intent to commit robbery of Jane Doe number 8, having occurred on October 1st, 1977 in the County of Sacramento, a violation of Penal Code Section 209. In addition, the defendant admitted he personally used a firearm in the course of that robbery, a violation of Penal Code Section 1222.5. In addition, the defendant, he admitted he personally used a knife in the course of that robbery, a violation of Penal Code Section 12022. Count 22, charge of kidnapping with intent to commit robbery of Jane Doe number 9, having occurred on October 21st, 1977 in the county of Sacramento, a violation of Penal Code Section 209. In addition, the defendant admitted he personally used a firearm in the course of that robbery, a violation of Penal Code Section 12022.5. In addition, the defendant admitted he personally used a knife in the course of that robbery, a violation of Penal Code Section 12022. Count 23, charge of kidnapping with intent to commit robbery of Jane Doe number 10, having occurred October 7th, 1978 in the county of Contra Costa, a violation of Penal Code Section 209. Count 24, the charge of kidnapping with intent to commit robbery of Jane Doe number 11, which occurred on October 13th, 1978 in the county of Contra Costa, a violation of Penal Code Section 209. Count 25, charge of kidnapping with intent to commit robbery of Jane Doe number 12, having occurred October 28th, 1978 in the county of Contra Costa, a violation of Penal Code Section 209. In addition, the defendant admitted he personally used a firearm in the course of that robbery, violation of Penal Code Section 12022.5, and that he personally used a knife in the course of that robbery as well, violation of Penal Code Section 12022. Count 26, the charge of kidnapping with intent to commit robbery of Jane Doe number 13, having occurred on June 11th, 1979 in the county of Contra Costa, a violation of Penal Code Section 209. In addition, the defendant admitted he personally used a firearm in the course of that robbery, a violation of Penal Code Section 12022.5. I'm going to hear from, we're going to hear from the people on this imposition of sentencing. I believe the district attorney from Contra Costa County wishes to be heard first.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dinah Beckton, District Attorney for Contra Costa County. Over 4 decades, that's a long time to wait for justice to be served. Finally, we have arrived at that day, the day when those who have waited so very long will hear that Joseph DeAngelo will now serve the rest of his life behind bars. The boogeyman, the man whose horrific, unspeakable crimes devastated the lives of so many people, lives that will never be the same, lives forever changed. Moments, hours of terror that can never be erased or forgotten. I want to underscore the strength of our victims and their families, the courage that they've displayed over the years, and their courage this week to come forward, share in open court with all of us the pain and the agony that they have endured over the years. After today's sentencing, Mr. DeAngelo will never threaten our victims again. He will never harm another soul. His evil actions are hard to describe and recount. The victims in this case bravely told the court this week the lasting trauma and pain caused by DeAngelo's horrific actions. As a former Superior Court judge myself, hearing from victims during the sentencing phase of a case is powerful and very sobering. Those whose lives were forever changed deserved a day in court. And I want to thank the court for allowing each victim who had the courage and the determination to come forward, allowing them the time to speak. We appreciate the opportunity for their voices to be heard. Thank you, Your Honor. Let us not forget the important words this week from these men and women and their families. Their words were hard to listen to due to the depravity displayed by Mr. DeAngelo, who preyed upon these victims. I appreciate the courage that it took to come forward. Just emphasizing a few statements from our victims in Contra Costa County One said, I survived and thrived because of the love and the support of friends and family, for which I can never thank them enough. Now, here we are, all strong women, not victims, having our say to a madman. Another said, finally, I can go forward. I have the justice I have been waiting so long for. I never thought I would get it. And last but not least, one said, we are committed and determined not to let these hours in October 1978 define who we are and what we were to become. I am so encouraged to hear that by finally seeing justice served, our victims now have hope. They have hope for a future. The criminal justice system is often complex, long-winded, and slow. In this case, for decades, DeAngelo eluded capture. However, thanks to the task force under Sacramento District Attorney Anne Marie Schubert, he was brought into custody. Law enforcement officials never gave up hope that we could bring the Golden State Killer to justice. The history in this case and the Contra Costa County District Attorney's Office history is tied to our former cold case investigator, Paul Hull. Mr. Hull spent decades, much of his career, and he played a tremendous role in solving this case and bringing us to this day of reckoning. I want to express my gratitude for Paul Hull's tireless work on this case on behalf of the victims across the state of California. The entire prosecution team spent countless hours to bring this case to a resolution and to assist the victims throughout this entire process, including our victim witness advocates and our attorneys. And I thank the team for the important work that you have done to bring this case to an end. The crimes spanned over 13 years that we know of. The seriousness and the gravity of the offenses, the psychological harm, the pain and the brutality of these offenses requires nothing less than the imposition of the maximum sentence. The victims must be assured that Mr. DeAngelo will never, ever walk this earth again as a free man. Your Honor, I stand for the people who respectfully thank the court for imposing the maximum amount of time allowed. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. The district attorney from Orange County wish to be heard.
Good morning, Your Honor. If it pleases the court, I cannot thank you enough on behalf of the people of Orange County and the people of the state of California for your grace and your patience, Your Honor. You have been amazing, and I know everybody in this room agrees just how much you have allowed us so much leeway and courtesy during these proceedings. I just wanted to publicly acknowledge you and thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I also would like to thank my team, Debbie Lloyd, Dennis Conway, Pat Dixon, Investigator Hutchcraft, Investigator Doyle, Law Clerk Rebecca Malkin, and of course I want to thank Anne Marie and her team. And I want to acknowledge, Your Honor, in public that just the amazing work of the district attorneys who work collaboratively to bring this case to justice. Many people don't know there's two interesting things about a case where a death penalty is on the line. One is that is a decision of the elected district attorneys and no one else. And in California, the only sentence that's handed down by a jury is death. Yesterday marked 40 years to the date that a stranger walked into Patty and Keith Harrington's Dana Point home and robbed those 3-month newlyweds of their life. Yesterday, the day the two brothers testified about their youngest brother, Keith. They never made it to their first wedding anniversary. Manuela Whitten spent 28 short years on this earth, never knowing the joy of motherhood. And you heard yesterday that her surviving husband never lead an appropriate life until he died. Janelle Cruz, 18 years old, life was ended before she realized her dreams of graduating from college or picking out a wedding dress. Natural things we all live for in our lives. For the last 3 days, we heard about the 13 lives that were cut short through murder. We heard of the memories that were never made. We heard of the dozens and dozens of sexual assault victims who had to go through that depraved act while some of their husbands watched, which is beyond comprehension for me. As he was destroying your lives, he got to be on his boat, blow out birthday candles, hold his granddaughter. But all the time in the back of his mind, he knew we would get it. Sir, in 2006, when I was the chairman of the committee that oversaw state prisons in the state assembly for the state of California, I watched the last man executed in the San Quentin death chamber. I was a witness to that death. When I was elected district attorney and this case became mine on behalf of the Orange County citizens, I wanted one thing. I wanted to wait those 25 years, and when I was at 85 or beyond, depending on how long it took for you to appeal your death sentence, I wanted them to wheel me in on my wheelchair. And instead of just staring straight forward in some glazed over eyes, I wanted to stare at you and watch you silently slip into the night. Never again to take away anybody's dreams that you ruined and the nightmares you created. I wanted to watch that. You made it personal, and it was personal for me on behalf of all these people. I honestly believe that this person, not even a person, this beast deserved the ultimate punishment of death. But we met with our victims. We knew the age of the case. We knew how long it took to solve. And we knew that this was the right thing to do so you could all be here today in your lifetime, as long as you had this opportunity. Today, this event today is a sentencing. Earlier in the week was a celebration of life on behalf of the victim. But today is a sentence. And it's meant for the victims who are silently now in heaven, or those of you who, thank God, are still here on earth, who now can become free from the shackles that you have been forced to endure since your paths intersected with the devil. Today, it's the devil who will be condemned to be behind bars for the rest of his life. He will never be free, thank God. He may have destroyed lives, but he has not destroyed memories. And I'm so grateful for the stories that all of you shared this week on behalf of your loved ones and behalf of yourselves. But for the victims whose voices have been stolen, and the family members who sadly ran out of time and could not make it here today, I want you to know that there are 13 angels watching this today. And they're with us right now. They have this opportunity to see this too. I would ask that as we are in the presence of these 13 who have left this earth but have gone to a better place, that you join me in a moment of silence for them and for all those who are still here with us or who may have passed but have experienced this horror and this nightmare. You would bow your heads. On behalf of the people of Orange County and the state of California, Your Honor, again, please accept our just heartfelt thank you for the way you've conducted this court, your personnel. We're so appreciative.
Thank you, Mr. Spitzer. Would the district attorney representing Santa Barbara wish to be heard?
Thank you, Your Honor. 25 years ago, I prosecuted my first sexual assault case in which the recipient witness was a loved one of the victims. At that point, I assumed the only traumatized person would be the victim. 3 groups of people in this courtroom know that that assumption is wrong. The recipient witnesses of crimes committed by the defendant, the prosecutors, and the defendant himself. I know the recipient witnesses know that because they lived through it. I know the prosecutors know that because they listened carefully to those witnesses. And I know the defendant knows that because he is driven to inflict the greatest amount of pain that he possibly can. And therefore, it wasn't enough for him to rape or beat or shoot his victims. He wanted to take inflicting human pain to the highest level possible. Therefore, he often ensured that their loved ones saw or heard his victims being tortured or killed. That's just who Joe DeAngelo is. My best friend, LADA Jackie Lacey, recently told me, if you really want to hurt me, hurt someone I love. Well, this defendant really wanted to hurt. He really wanted to hurt as many people as he could, and he did just that. Around the same time that I prosecuted that case, I prosecuted my first rape of an intoxicated person case. Again, at that point, I assumed that if she couldn't remember being raped, that had to be better than remembering the gory details. Once again, I was wrong. And how do I know that? Because the victim told me so. She said, every morning when I wake up, my first thought is that something terrible happened to me. I just don't know what. I just don't know what. I don't think I can ever get over this thing until I know those details. And then she started to cry. And a very long minute went by, and she said, I'm actually jealous of rape victims who remember being raped. Yesterday, as I listened to Debbie Dominguez's powerful, powerful words about not being able to enter her home or know the details of what happened. And then I thought about Doug Domingo, Brian Sanchez, Dr. Offerman, all of whom are here today. And then all of the other victims' loved ones who will never know the details of what happened to their child, their mother, their father, their uncle, their friend. And I thought maybe some of them also felt they couldn't begin their healing process until they knew all the details. To them, I humbly suggest you don't. I too have experienced great loss. I too experienced that. And I believe you, like me, have a hole in your heart that you hope will never heal. Because you love them. You love them so very much. And I believe that is what you need to know. Proceed with your healing process. What you need to know is what you already know. In life, you loved them and they loved you. And now that this case is finally over, perhaps what you need to concentrate on the details of that love. Focus on the things that made them lovable and allow yourself to let those memories make you smile again. I believe it is possible. True healing can come from that knowledge. Because knowing that you are loved and that you were loved is truly the most powerful knowledge of all. Again, thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Would the district attorney representing Tulare County wish to present at this time?
Good morning, Tim Ward, Tulare County District Attorney. Your Honor, when your gavel falls today, this sentence will be final. And this case will soon then be viewed through the prism of history. And as we have seen and heard this week, the defendant slowly ceases to be the focal point of that story. Instead, my prayer going forward is the legacy which remains will focus on the triumph and the resiliency displayed by the survivors that we've heard from this week. Though questions will inevitably remain, we should continue to be steadfastly focused on the compassion justly due these families assembled here today. Though these despicable horrors began in Tulare County, we will not be defined by evil. Instead, our entire community stands silently alongside the Snelling, the Hupp, the McGowan families, and all families here today and families across this state. In searching for some positive message to remain, I say this: the triumphant spirit of these families loudly cries across this state and across the entire world in one unified single voice, crying out to other families who have been victimized, yet they patiently, agonizingly await their day in court. In that unified voice, the world is now told, never give up. You are not forgotten. Like many families that we've heard from this week, others across this nation are living a never-ending, nightmarish journey, a journey of continually closed doors. Today, they are shown and they are told, never give up hope. As science and technology evolve, the space for evil like this to operate within gets smaller and smaller. Simply put, the DNA will never forget. And by God's grace, may the doors of justice open for other families. That voice of hope is the true legacy that shall remain, and it shall not be silent, ever. On behalf of the Snelling, the Hupp, and McGowan families, the Visalia Police Department, and the entire Tulare County community, Your Honor, I want to thank you for providing a model of judicial decorum that has shown remarkable deference to the families and the survivors this week. You have given the state a glimpse into why we have a system of justice in the first place, and that is to serve victims. You have allowed their voices to resonate so loudly, and you have provided a model that other courts would do well to emulate.
Thank you, sir.
As District Attorney of Tulare County, it is my honor to speak on behalf of the victims and survivors listed in count 1 of the complaint and give voice to Professor Snelling and Officer McGowan, who cannot do so today. But with their voice, I hereby ask you, Your Honor, to sentence this defendant to the maximum allowed under the law.
Thank you, sir. Does the District Attorney representing Ventura County wish to be heard?
Good morning, Your Honor. I too want to thank you for the courtesy and kindness you so graciously extended to each of the victims over the last 4 days. Your Honor, as we have witnessed during these victim impact statements, this is a case about light and darkness. The victims and survivors who testified before this court are people of light. By their courage, they have shined a very bright light on the magnitude of the crimes before this court. They painted a picture of the immense impact these horrific crimes had on their lives. In a sense, they have also brought to life their loved ones. In doing so, they have honored their memories as people of purpose, people of character, people that would have made a difference in this world were it not for their brutal murder at the hands of the defendant, who today, thank goodness, at last faces judgment. And in their statements, the victims and survivors also revealed to us the fundamental goodness of the human spirit and its will to endure, to thrive, even in the face of unspeakable suffering, loss. We must also confront the terrible darkness of the defendant, who sits before this court today stoic, devoid of humanity, lacking any remorse, and utterly unredeemable. And it is telling that his behavior, both during the crimes and since his arrest, reveals a person who consciously, who willfully, who intentionally avoids the light. His crimes were always committed in the dark of night. And it was common for him to cover lights, to cover furnishings, to cover televisions, to avoid any ambient light. And even now, here in this courtroom, he turns away from the light and dare not face or look at his accusers for fear that the truth of their testimonies might penetrate deep darkness. Yesterday, during his victim impact statement, Drew Wittoon likened this proceeding to the horror one might see in a war crime. Certainly no event in modern history can fully compare the extermination of 6 million Jews. But still, Wittoon's analogy is fitting in this case when one looks at the horror, the crimes, committed by this defendant. That analogy also reminded me of a story that was told by the chief prosecutor at Turnbull, former United States Supreme Court Justice William H. Jackson. And the story, I believe, serves as a metaphor for the importance of the rule of law and justice itself, today and always. According to this story, a visitor at a cathedral under construction approached three workmen and asked them what it was that they were doing. They were all stonemasons. First muttered, "I'm earning a living." The second gave an uninspired reply, "I'm laying this stone." The third one looked up at the cathedral with a gleam in his eye and his face lit up by his and said, "I'm building a cathedral." Now, one might question the comparison of what we do here today to the building of a cathedral, particularly given the grotesque, gruesome, and ugly nature of the crimes before this court. But I do want to point out that over the last 4 days, we consciously and intentionally avoided showing any images of the gruesome crime scenes that are so much a part of this case. We did so not to marginalize the brutality and sheer cruelty of the defendant's crimes, but instead to honor, to shine a light on, and to pay tribute to the lives of the victims and their survivors. Your Honor, no one in this courtroom doubts or is uncertain about the ultimate sentence that you will impose today. And we acknowledge that no judgment by this court can bring back or fully restore the lives impacted by this cruel serial killer and rapist. Still, you have presided over a very emotional yet dignified and respectful proceeding for the purpose of meting out man's justice on this defendant. And as district attorney for the Ventura County, I am grateful for the way you have acquitted yourself, conducted the proceeding. It is also my fervent hope, my prayer, that much like that stonemason looking up at the beauty of the cathedral he was building, the victims who appeared before you can look up and feel a sense of hope, sense of renewed hope, sense of purpose, sense of life, with the knowledge that today, in this courtroom, in this time, in this place, we all did the very best we could do to deliver man's justice, which, as we know, is never fully adequate. I now respectfully ask the court to impose the maximum sentence authorized by law in the plea in this case.
Thank you, counsel. Does the district attorney representing Sacramento County wish to be heard at this time?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I stand here as the district attorney for Sacramento County, but I stand here incredibly proud of this team. I thank the defense team for your professionalism through the entirety of this litigation. Judge Bowman, you have demonstrated dignity and grace that is remarkable. It has been 16,417 days since Joseph DeAngelo began his reign of terror. 44 years, 11 months, and 11 days. For those in Sacramento, it's been 16,136 days since the first rape of Phyllis. 44 years, 2 months, and 4 days. It's been 42 years since Brian and Katie were taken from this world. And it's been 12,529 days since Janelle, that beautiful light, was taken. 34 years, 3 months, and 18 days. A few days after this plea agreement, the plea on June 29th, I had an email forwarded to me from a local journalist, from a woman from Sacramento named Pam. It could have been written today. It, in my belief, it encapsulates how I think everyone that has sat in this courtroom for this last week or sat in their homes and watched this transpire feels. And I'm going to quote that. I am wrung out. I almost put DeAngelo in the subject line, but I cannot give him any more headlines. I am 71 years old, third generation native Sacramentan. I lived through the terror of the East Area rapist. Over the past 40 years, I have read everything regarding this case. No window is ever open or unlocked at night, ever. Gates on either side of our home are locked always. Lights surround our home. My close friends all feel the same. Recently, a contractor in my home questioned why my sturdy, large, nailed picture window facing out hadn't been considered for replacement with, quote, nice sliders with screens to open out. I looked at the 40-something sternly and I said my always ready answer. 3 words: East Area rapist. He made some comment about how he'd heard something about him, but he'd been, quote, arrested. I explained, you don't understand. I lived it. It will never go away. She goes on to say, while I was not a victim, I was a victim. On Monday, June 29th, I sat in front of my TV and I cried. I cried for the victims. I cried for the families. The horror, the terror of what those who died went through in their final moments. As a person of faith, I put my faith in God's love, that He immediately covered those victims in peace and in love. I have to believe that in order to put my foot forward every day. Pam followed up with a note to me just a couple days ago. My heart, my being continues to weep for those victims. For the last week, our hearts and our beings have wept for each of his victims and their families. Their words and their stories will never be forgotten. As described by so many of the murder victim families and the crime victims, our society has been deprived of exceptional and extraordinary people. These rapes and these murders, in the words of our victims, have cut across families, friends, generations, and entire communities. In the words of Brian Sanchez, overwhelming grief is an understatement, and true justice is an overstatement. Personally, I have faith that their souls have been covered in peace and love. My greatest hope for all of these victims and their families, perhaps, is best put in their own words, as we heard this week. The greatest revenge is to live your lives. Paint your children and your grandchildren's rooms again with hearts and rainbows. Water ski again. Know that the monster of your childhood or your younger years is gone forever and will die alone in the dark. To the defendant, or as Mr. Wittoon called him, the convict, there is honestly little left to say. Your name will fade from the headlines. But despite that fade, know one thing. Until the day you leave this earth, this incredible team, a team that has worked for decades to find you, to arrest you, prosecute you, convict you, will not just promise you, but will ensure that you will never succeed at deceiving or manipulating the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation into believing that you are some feeble, inept old man who somehow deserves better housing, treatment, or privilege. Lastly, Your Honor, and perhaps in what I think are some of the most powerful words we heard this week from Chris Pedretti, Mr. DeAngelo, there is no prayer strong enough to save.
Thank you, Counsel. Well, we're going to take a very, and I mean very short break, like 5 minutes. I'm going to exchange my court reporter, exchange out for another court reporter. I wouldn't wander off too far. Okay.
All right, everybody, we're going to be in recess for about 5 minutes. If you could just recess in place, that would be great. Just remember, it's only going to be about 5 minutes, so if you step out to use the restroom, hurry back, please.